Yeah, it says it's being recorded.
Wonderful. Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, here we are. I'm drinking your tea right now. I told you this offline, but I'll do it on here. It's a Glenlivet 14. You know what? First of all, you want to tell me what I'm drinking?
Yeah. So this is a blend of a black tea from Ceylon, from Sri Lanka. It's called the Beverly. I like this black tea a lot because it's like a big long leaf black tea that's like really kind of jammy. It has like a kind of like natural kind of like a tamarind and guava kind of like thick jamminess to it. You'll see like the long black tea leaves in there. If you just take one of those tea leaves and you just chew on it and mix it around in your saliva, you'll get like a kind of thick, kind of tamarind jammy sweetness to it. Yeah, see what you find there.
I see what you're saying.
So we blended, I blended that tea with raspberry leaves and with cinnamon, I believe.
Yes.
And our goal, yeah, okay. We made this to commemorate the Glenlivet's 14-year aged, 14-year cognac barrel aged whiskey. So that blend, if you like brew it really strong and then throw in some Glenlivet 14, a little bit of lemon, some sugar, it makes a really, really nice cocktail. Like
I wish I had that with me. I have
Yeah,
nothing
huh?
here. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I have a bottle of mezcal. That's about it.
Wow.
I don't really drink too much. I drink more tea.
And you have the endless ocean behind you.
Yeah, the ocean is good enough for me.
That's
where I drown my sorrows instead of at the bottom of the bottle.
Good. That's not bad.
So yeah. Okay, sorry. So finish. Yeah, sorry.
No, so that's what that blend is. We do a lot of collaborations with actually lately we've been doing more and more. Yeah. Lately we've been doing more and more collaborations with different liquor companies. It's so much fun, man. We do some work with this rum company called Banks.
Okay.
They have the Banks 5 and the Banks 7. It's just like delicious blended rum, and they focus on rum punches. And okay. tea is like a part of the definition of a classic rum punch is that it includes tea and spices. It's like tea, spices, citrus, sugar, and rum.
It's funny, I didn't really make this correlation, but later tonight I'm doing another episode with a friend who's I mean, I hate the word mixologist, but like, you know, they say bartender. Like the really legit liquor people, cocktail people say bartender. They don't like mixologist. Anyway, like she's my friend who I know through someone named Sasha Petrask, who's like the godfather of it all. But
yeah, I've heard of Sasha Petrask.
He's Milk and Honey. He's responsible for any cocktail that you get today, period. And Lucinda Sterling is one of his like OG, I don't know what you call it, proteges. I think protege would be a fair term. So I'm doing it with her tonight.
I went to Milk and Honey in like 2007 when I used to go to school in New York.
Oh, cool.
And I went to Milk and Honey in 2007 and it changed my life. Like that's part of what made me want to open up our tea room, you know, like, look, check crazy. This out. Okay. Yeah. Let me show you something real quick. Like if you see, this is our building, you know? So like,
yeah, give us a tour.
When you walk into our building, it's like,
so for the people who are just doing audio, we're looking in like a regular nondescript hallway.
Right. There's like OSHA rights, you know, it's like this used to be LabCorp's office. Used to do like drug tests and blood tests.
Fluorescent lighting in the ceiling with one of those things where like you think you're gonna like remove the panel and there's gonna be someone hiding up there, like, you know.
It's like beige walls, beige floor, and then we have a little sign.
Could be a nursing home, and then
JoJo Tea tasting room by reservation only, and then we come into this.
Completely another world. Oh wow, it's a beautiful door.
Our teaware here. We have all of our teas stacked up, and then we open up here into like the HQ, where we have all of our.
This is a lot of space.
Yeah, well, I mean, we sell tea to. We have over 300
Yeah,
accounts for pork.
you have tons of accounts. Yeah, I want to talk
Yeah,
about that too. Obviously, I mean, tons of stuff.
yeah. And this is like,
Beautiful.
where we have like meditation cushions down here. We'll,
This is
when
Coral
we're doing,
Gables, right?
yeah. Well, it's like Coral Gables, Little Havana.
Cool.
Uh, so this is the tasting room. We have our tea bar where we can do gongfu tea. This is a crazy gongfu teapot that I bought for big tea ceremonies, and then this whole shit went down, and now I can't
Awesome.
use it.
You'll get it'll work out eventually.
Yeah. And then in here, this is our packaged inventory that's ready to ship to restaurants and for website sales and so forth.
Great.
Um, there's two amazing human beings. This is the back of Nan Nan's head. That's the back of Cindy's head.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
And then this is where we have the bulk tea, like Camellia sinensis. This is where we have all the white tea, green tea, black tea, oolong tea, and pu'er aging. And then if we come in here, this is where we have all the herbs, the chamomile, the rose petals, the peppermint, the cinnamon, the ginger.
Oh, that's cool. You keep them in separate areas. Yeah.
Yeah, because the aroma in this room is super
exactly.
intense, And then over here we have all of our blends where, we'll make a big batch of the blend and we'll lock it away.
You'll seal them,
and, yeah. And then when we need to package more of the blend, we'll, just pull it from there.
So this is like a random note. I mean, we haven't done like a proper introduction. We're kind of just like going in, but people just like think, tea, and it's just one thing. And first of all, like tea is Camellia sinensis leaf, and then other things in hot water, like herbal, like chamomile and mint. Those are just other things in hot water. And you can't put those together unless you're doing a blend. But if you put them in just like your cabinet, if you put like nice green tea that's not oxidized next to, some chamomile, that's the floral essence of it. That's effectively like what you do with jasmine tea, is like you're putting flowers in with green tea. If you do that unintentionally, you are, you could get something cool, but you're getting something different, and you have to.
Yeah, exactly. And like, especially like, if people, I'm very much aware of the fact that like, if you go to the grocery store, you can find tea that's a lot less expensive than our tea,
Sure.
And I think that, yeah, it's nowhere near the quality at all, But my point is that if somebody then goes and spends the money on our tea, and if they're buying a 2007 Hong Kong aged raw pour from Baoshan that was like a Hong Kong high humidity for 3 years, and then like lowered humidity every year after that, and then they store that next to peppermint because it's in their tea cabinet, then like all of the nuance that tea has been building up over the past 13 years is going to be lost, and that's fucking tragic. That like, if it's like you said, if it's not purposeful and intentional, then it's great. Experiment with it, have fun.
I keep all my stuff in different places in my house in New York. I obviously don't store the way that you do. I don't have like that much, but I have my pu'er area. I have my fresh stuff. I have a different shelf in my fridge for Japanese versus Chinese, because the grains, the aroma is totally like when you drink a Chinese grain versus a Japanese grain, you wouldn't, if you didn't know better, like it's just a completely different thing. And I keep my herbals in a whole nother area.
In my apartment, I'm like that. I have like a drawer in my bedroom with all of my fermented tea, with all of my like Liu Bao and Shou Pu'er. And then I have another drawer just full of raw pu'er, like by age. And then I have a little closet that's where I have my like personal collection of any oxidized teas,
Yeah.
And then like green tea and white tea, honestly, like I don't drink enough of them to like have at home, because I always drink them in the office. I tend to drink green tea and white tea like during the day, in the afternoon, and then the stuff that I have at home.
I drink a lot of Japanese tea, so I didn't until I went, and then once I did 2 months for like Shinsha and Sakura season, and I'm not gonna lie, like that got me more hooked than I was before. I was always I'd say my ratios were like way on the, I'd say even, you know, Taiwanese oolongs, like Chinese was high up, super high, dominant. And then Taiwanese oolongs were a huge part of my regiment, and Japanese greens were like something I'd do here and there. And it was honestly because I didn't quite know what I was doing. And there's very few places and very few people in the West who do, I think.
Right.
And
What
Chinese
I understand,
latitude is different. And if you
yeah,
don't know what you're doing with Japanese teas, you trash them, and like
of
you just
course,
trash them. And
exactly.
I
They're the
think
most
I needed to go
temperamental
there to
tea.
learn.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think they're the most temperamental tea. They're the
absolutely.
easiest tea to mess up, and that's why,
Like
like,
Gyokoro, I just did not know that you're
yeah,
supposed to like drip. No one never dripped Gyokoro for me
yeah,
until
of
I went
course,
to Japan. And then I was like, wait a second. So I understood that you had to do it super cool, like 149. I
hmm,
had Gyokuro like that, but it didn't blow me away. I was like, this is cool. Yeah, this is good.
yeah.
But then I didn't understand the saturation of it. I didn't understand the dripping process. I just, it never occurred to me to use that kind of ratio. And
I don't know. I'm sorry. I
no,
don't mean
go
to
for it.
interrupt you. I don't know if you've covered this on the podcast, but how did you first get into tea?
Wait, fuck. So okay, so let's do introductions, which we didn't even do. This is you do you, and then I'll tell some of mine.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
And
So,
plug away, like tell
yeah.
people where you're at, and like how to
Hmm.
find you online and stuff, which I'll obviously list it. That's why I didn't really care about like doing the introduction off the top, but
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this will
No. No
like be in the
worries.
description and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
introduce yourself and all that.
My name's Mike. My name's Mike Ortiz. I'm the founder of a small tea company in Miami called JoJo Tea. I founded it in 2011. At the time, I was a yoga and meditation instructor in Miami, and I had found my way into a small Buddhist temple because I wanted to practice Vajrayana Buddhism and like do you know what that is? Like the Tibetan lineages and stuff like that. I wanted to practice more
I'm
like
not sure
tantric.
the name. Yeah.
So it's like the tantric lineages of Buddhism. You know, very
Okay.
intense like spiritual practices and retreats. A lot of like you know. Like to become a teacher in this lineage, you need to go on a 3-year retreat.
Cool.
Yeah, there's like it's like it fascinated me because it was like spirituality as a series of practices instead of as like a philosophy or a series of mythologies. You know, it was like a series of practices, and I found that to be.
I met someone from the Rubin Museum in New York, and I
Mhm.
spent a bunch of time there recently. Do you know it? Have you been there?
I know it, but I haven't been.
It's
They have
cool.
like
I
the biggest
mean,
Tibetan collection, right?
exactly, yeah. So that's where like I kind of learned like what, tantric means outside of like part of it where it's like yeah, it's about sex and stuff. But
Yeah, it's hippies in Sedona, naked hippies in Sedona.
but it's cool. There's a lot to learn. I
I
spent
think
like
so.
hours there. Yeah, just like reading
Yeah.
everything. It was a lot. Anyway, please continue. Yeah.
No, no. So like, I kind of dove in head first and really wanted to study as much of the Buddhism as I could, and I was fascinated by like mysticism and mystic practices, but I was just as fascinated by the director of the center that I was studying at, the director of the temple, because this lady, she was like an accomplished master in Tibetan Buddhism, an accomplished master in Chinese Buddhism, an accomplished master in Japanese Buddhism. And she, like, if you ask her, like, what is your practice? She did a lot of, qigong. She taught qigong, she taught
Okay.
meditation, etc. But if you ask her what's your practice, she said that her practice is tea.
Cool.
And I was like, I didn't understand it at all. I grew up in Miami. I was an amateur boxer and a football player, and then I decided I wanted to be a movie star. So I took LSD and moved to New York. And like I wasn't like I had no idea that there was even such a thing as tea masters.
Uh-huh.
And I just like I was so floored at the simplicity of her practice, and that somebody like this who has seen kind of like the depths of mysticism and of the mystic experience, if this person could pick if this person could pick tea as a practice, there needs to be a a lot more to this that I just don't understand, you know? And I spent 3 years with her studying meditation and Buddhism, and tea was just like a part of every day, you know. But it was interesting because I noticed that there was a big difference in like the quality of the tea and in the quality of the moment when she made tea versus when anybody else made tea,
Right.
you know. When she made tea, it felt like the city got quiet. You know, it felt like all the cars just stopped moving. Like everybody, oh, hang on, Master Sai is making tea, and then everybody just stopped what they were doing. You know, and I felt like there was this tremendous gravity to that moment, and it made me, and you know, being like obsessed with mysticism, I felt like, man, like there's something really interesting going on here. There must be some kind of alchemy that I'm not even aware of that's happening here. You know. And then one day she kind of just like threw me under the bus, or threw me into the fire, I guess is a better way to say it. There was this really important guru visiting from Nepal, that was like way up in the lineage. He like ran his own monasteries and shit. And when he came, Master Sai was like, "Hey, Michael, make tea for us."
Oh, wow.
And, you know, she had never asked me to make tea for her. And now she wasn't just asking me to make tea for her. She was making tea. She was asking me to make tea for somebody that her and I both respected as a superior, you know? So it was like, holy shit. Like, you know, it kind of like, I like had a little like nervous breakdown and made tea, whatever. But it
What
made
do you
me,
remember what kind of tea and how you prepared
no,
it?
in retrospect, it must have been like a Dongting oolong, Taiwanese
Okay.
oolong, Dongting
Uh-huh.
Taiwanese oolong, you know? Because at the time I didn't know the name of any teas, you
For
know? I
those
just,
of those listening who don't know, that's like this sort of roasted chocolatey, almost, it can be super chocolatey oolong. That's it's good year round, but there's particular, like it's really like it kicks ass in the winter. Like it's just
yeah,
like the best winter tea. There's a place in New York called Tea Company that I'll have them
yeah,
on at some point, and they get really really delicious dongding. And I always my friend Jason Chang, who I'll have on also at some point, he's Taiwanese and he brings me stuff all the time, and particularly those, like once you really get into tea, that's one of my favorite kinds of teas. But
mm,
specifically, like if you get to the point where your palate can taste the difference between different dongdings, like you're really like operating
nice.
at a sweet level, and you'll understand so much about tea. It's like it's really one of the best teas, and there's so much nuance between all of them.
Well, you know,
Get to the point where you can learn it. Yeah.
Dongting was the first mountain in Taiwan to grow tea, you know.
Yeah.
So Dongting is considered is very much like the classic Taiwanese flavor. You know, it's like before the whole like lightly oxidized jade oolong came about. You know, it was all Baozhong
Right.
and Dongting, from what I understand.
Yeah, so
So it's
like
like,
the oxidation spectrum, like Baozhong is closer to green and Dongding is like closer to black. But like it's nothing like, it's very different from black, but it's just more oxidized. It's darker. It's roastier.
yeah,
Baozhong, you could very.
more nutty, more
Mhm.
like toasted chestnuts, toasted walnut character. You know, toasted pecan.
Right. It's awesome. And Baozhong
Yeah,
is more sensitive, more sweet, more delicate.
yeah,
Uh,
floral.
yeah, I love Dongding.
Yeah, man. So at any rate, so after spending a few years at the Buddhist temple, and then you know, kind of like just fooling around with the Gongfu tea style on my own for like, you know, a year and a half or something. Master Sai finally one day was like, "Hey, Michael, you know, I see you've been making tea for a while. Let me teach you how to make tea." You know,
Cool.
so like I had been studying tea under her for a year and a half before she taught me anything about tea. You know, and I think that that's like, man, the day that I could learn to be a teacher in that way, I think that that's like, because I was learning so much subconsciously before I even knew that I was like learning it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So then when she was finally like, all right, let me teach you how to make tea, we really went through like the technicalities of Kung Fu tea and Yixing clay and, you know, how to brew tea on a drip tray. And then of course it was all integrated with like a really thorough Qigong practice. So we were also talking about like the alchemy of the microcosmic orbit. Uh, it's like have you ever heard of that?
No, no, tell me about that.
It's a principle that comes from qigong and from acupuncture. You know about the meridians? Have you heard of that?
I don't think so. I mean, this is all cool shit. So tell us about qigong. Tell us about all of it. Yeah.
All right, word.
Not
So
everyone, like people are listening that whatever I know, fuck it. Like they're not gonna
yeah,
know. So, or
okay.
not to say, I just mean someone listening isn't
Yeah,
gonna know.
yeah, yeah. So like so basically like chi is your life force, right? And it's like associated with your breath. I think like the best way to explain it, I think, is like imagine moving something heavy, you know, and you're standing next to something heavy, and you like get low, and you put your shoulder against it, and then you take a deep breath in, and then you and push against it and expel that force. That's chi. That's like a big, gross movement of chi, of energy linked with the breath, movement with intention. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's chi, then gong means like labor or work is like the root word. But if you think, but it's like the same root as gong fu, right? So gong fu is not just a martial art. What gong fu actually means is a practice or skill that is undertaken with attention to detail and with the goal of mastery.
Okay.
You see? So there's like so your level, like your gong fu in something is just really like your level of understanding and of skill in this particular thing. You understand? So that's what gong fu tea
I
comes
never knew.
from.
Okay.
Yeah, gong fu tea is like your skill, your familiarity with tea. You know,
Oh, wow.
your practice of tea. Yeah, that's what gong fu is. Your work
So it's
of tea.
more applicable than I thought. I always associated it with like a certain type of preparation with a certain type of ishing and stuff like that and cups and whatever. But it's
You know, it's tricky though. It's tricky because like it's used in both ways.
okay.
In one sense, it's like gong fu tea just means an aesthetic
Mm-hmm.
of like that started in like the late 70s and the early 80s in Taiwan, and is based on like a artful combination of Yixing clay, a drip tray, a little piece of nature, some nice cups, etc. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that is called gong fu tea as an aesthetic. But
Okay.
then at the same time, like if you look at what is gong fu tea itself, not like what is the style of gong fu tea aesthetically, but what is gong fu tea itself, right? That is it's a spiritual practice. The use of tea, yeah, like the practice of tea. You know, if somebody has good gong fu of tea, they shouldn't need a thermometer or a scale or a stopwatch or anything like that. You know, so like real good gong fu, you give them water and a way to heat it, and you
Yeah.
give them something to put it in, and you give them tea, and they can make that delicious. You know, that's like the flexibility of gong fu. You know, so then what is qi gong, right? So qi gong
Yeah, I see how
is
you apply it.
the gong fu of qi, you
Mm-hmm.
know, is like the practice of your life force and your breath and your energy.
Love
So
it.
so what it translates into in reality is like a series of yoga like poses, a series of tai chi like movements in the body, and then a series of very detailed visualizations and breathing exercises, you know. So
Cool.
then like and the breathing exercises are associated with something called the meridians. That the meridians in yoga, they call them nadis. So if anyone that's listening is a yogi, they've heard the term the nadi, N-A-D-I, nadis. That's what the Chinese call meridians. And basically these are like the channels in the body that carry energy, you know? So in the same way that the veins move blood back and forth, the nervous system moves energy and electricity back and forth, you know? So like if we look at like this side, like if we look at like the palm of the hand and the inside of the wrist and the inside of the elbow, everything bends in the same direction. You know, everything bends inward. And then if we look at the back of the fingers, the back of the hand, the back of the wrist, the back of the elbow, everything opens outward, right?
So you want to
So
have
then
it going like that.
Yes, exactly. And then, but then the same thing with the body. You know, you look at the front of the body, it all goes either this way in the front of the body. When all of those muscles contract,
like that.
we kind of go in toward our belly. And then when all of the muscles in the back contract, we arch, the chest opens up, we open up the neck, etc. Right?
Sure.
So then the microcosmic orbit is on the inhalation, a movement, an energetic movement down the center of the spine, where you can imagine something like a pure white water coming into like the third eye and moving down the center of the spine, and then accumulating in the dantian, which is like just about 2 inches below your belly button. That's like your center of gravity, you know, kind of like the center of the solar plexus chakra. But it's interesting because it's like the center of the solar plexus chakra theoretically, but on the body it's where the sacral chakra is. You know, that's like the dantian, really.
Okay.
So so the inhale sees like cooling energy that, you know, represents like yin energy, represents materiality, represents the physical world. And then we hold the breath just enough to generate some heat, and then we imagine a white fire coming up the spine out the top of the head, and that happens with the exhale. And this orbit, this circular pattern, is a meditation technique that's used almost like acupuncture without needles, because you're like generating energy, and then as you're generating it, you're bringing it back into the orbit, circulating it. And the idea historically has been that that's going to like break up the blockages in our nervous channels, you know, and make it make our existence in the world a lot more like synchronous and a lot less clumsy, because, you know, we are a lot more integrated with the universe in ways that we can't even cognize, you know?
I dig it. Okay. And then where does tea fit in on that plane of thinking?
So that it's like remember I said that when Master Sai would make tea, it felt like the whole city got quiet. And it was because of the alchemical intention of, like, when she was brewing tea, she was also practicing this, where like as soon as the water would hit the tea, she would start breathing her own microcosmic orbit with the intention of breathing her best possible intention and energy out as the tea flowed out of the pot into the cup, you know?
So she would kind of sync her body's internal movement, the steeping of the tea, and
her body, her
sync.
intention, and the flowing of the water were all in synchrony, in perfect synchrony, you know?
So you could think about that as applying to different kinds of teas and different types of preparations of tea as having different effects on your body. Some tea I'll steep really hot and it'll sit in there for a while. Some tea I'll steep really cool and it'll be like instant, and any variation along that. That's something I've never really thought about it that way, where, yeah, that's cool. I never thought about it as a dual, as a parallel process.
Yeah, like as a vehicle for the intention of the, call it like the peace of mind, the awakening of your guest, you know?
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's just a prayer, you know, it's just an intention. It's just a wish. But to me, whenever this person made tea, there was an undeniable difference in the quality of the moment, you know?
Sure.
And I think that like, it's just like, that fascination, like, grabbed me and took me away, you know? Like, I spent the rest of my life just like studying that moment.
How long ago was that?
That was sometime in 2010.
Okay. So it's
and
been
then
a decade.
I started the company in 2011. That was when I decided, like, the first time that I ever tasted the first time I ever tasted Oriental Beauty.
Okay.
The moment that I tasted it, I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, at the moment I tasted it, I was like, you gotta be kidding me that this exists. And like, Nobody knows about it. Are you like, dude, like, you know, I grew up like, I was like, you know, I've gone to good restaurants, I've had good meals, I've had good wine, I've tasted some really delicious stuff. And this is something that I've never even like, I never even knew existed, you know?
Oh
Like
man, it's
literally,
crazy how
yeah,
people just like I mean, a lot of like the reason why, and I'll do, you know, my side of it, but a lot of the reason why,
yeah.
like, I care about this, why, like, I could call this show anything, I could make it about anything, and it's not all about tea, but the reason why I put tea like in the center of it is just like, not only is it all the things that you just described, where it's so, I mean, I if you listen to like the first episode intro, I talk about how it's like a metaphor for humanity to me, in not the exact same way that you talked about it, but it's a total analog, and in that you can basically live your life through the way that you have tea. And it's so crazy. So like, not only is it like the most important thing that I think to understand, but nobody understands it. And
Yeah,
it's,
well,
especially in the West, it's so crazy how people just like, they think tea is,
in the
this thing
East
that you
either,
just, oh
in the
God,
East
it's
either,
ridiculous.
nobody understands it.
Oh
Nobody
yeah, no,
understands
it's
it.
true. You go to Japan and you get bubble tea and like, yeah.
And I don't claim to understand it either, but I
Oh no,
celebrate the
we're
fact,
doing, yeah.
I celebrate
I'm
the
like
fact that I don't
1%.
understand it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
I
like
know 1%, but like,
the unknown in tea is like fascinating and exciting and sexy to me. You know what I mean?
sure.
And that's what keeps it
It's a
alive.
life
That's what.
pursuit. Oh no, it'll never, to me. So like, long story short, what I said earlier was, it's a metaphor for people, and we all come from the same thing, yet through nature and nurture, we're spread into not only
Mm,
these 7 varietals, but infinite variations upon those varietals. And
mm-hmm.
it's tremendous. And every
Yeah,
sip of
five
tea,
degrees, 5 degrees higher on the roast.
yeah,
5 degrees higher
exactly.
on the roast, and it's a different tea. Whatever.
Yeah, that's something, I made a note to get like your take on, and you kind of like started in it a little bit, of like the art versus the science of tea, how there's a lot of people who will, once you even get into the tea world, there are people that make it very like a high learning
Clinically
curve, like
scientific. Oh, okay.
yeah, they make it really like a hard point of entry, where
Yeah.
like, you have to do this and then this, or else it's not good. And to me, I think that there is some science to it. Like, you don't want to burn Gilcoro or something like that, but past these few very learnable for anybody basics, it's really, it's an art, it's choice, and it's how you choose to live, how you choose to exist with it, how you experience it. And
Exactly.
yeah, like,
And if you're
change 5
afraid to,
degrees and
and if you're afraid to fuck up, you're never gonna get better at it. You're never gonna
yeah,
make a cup. You're never gonna make a cup of tea that's gonna blow everyone away. You
sure.
know what I mean? You like, it's like, the only thing that you know for sure is that you're gonna fuck up. So go. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Not at all. No, I mean, it's well, here, so I'll give a short I'll give a short one, so that listeners don't have to hear me go through retreads too much. But
Listeners,
I
I'm sorry.
came to what?
I said listeners, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It's early in the show, so it's a new show, so it's not a cliche yet. But I got into tea really late in life, or it sounds like similar to you. Like, neither of us were like raised with good tea.
Right.
Like, it was like one day, what the fuck, But
Yeah.
I so I okay. I haven't like given this yet, so I could do this. I didn't drink hot stuff until my like mid 20s. Period. I drank soup. I would sip soup, but when I was maybe 8 years old, I don't know, maybe even younger, I was with my family and we went on a snowmobiling trip, and we had hot chocolate like on the break of the snowmobiling trip. And that day I got sick, and like a cold, unrelated to the actual unrelated to the hot chocolate, but for some reason I associated. Are you still there?
Yeah, I
Okay,
apologize.
cool.
I got
No, all good. I
something
just
came
wanted
in.
to make sure.
Yeah.
unrelated to the hot chocolate, I got sick, but in my like 8-year-old brain, I associated hot stuff with sick, and I never had hot stuff. So coupled with this, I don't know, strange, I don't do drugs. I've never tried drugs. I've never had cigarettes. I've never tasted coffee. So I wasn't one to go and just like miss things. I wasn't one to be like, when my friends were doing something and like I needed to know about it. I lacked that instinct.
You liked FOMO.
So I never feared missing out. I was always just in my thing, in my own head. And I avoided trying a lot of things because of that. So there was just no inroad for me. But between this weird like hypochondria that I had as a young child to this like I'm not trying shit that like if you tell me to try this, I'll be like, cool, thanks for telling me, and I may or may not. It's unrelated whether I actually do it or not. So it wasn't for a long time. Okay, and then the next stage was like my college years and stuff, like teens and early 20s. I was exposed to the westernized, the English kind of tea. And,
where were you living?
Oh, I'm from New York. So
okay,
I went
you were living in New York at the time?
Yeah, I was living in New York. I went to college in Boston, but Northeast, like, or wherever I would travel, just whatever exposure I would have to, tea would be through English tea culture. It would be people trying to get me to try it, but they were English inspired or actually English people. And when I would, it was fucking trash. So I did try it a few times. I remember particularly I had a friend who was British, and she got me to try tea, but it was garbage. It was disgusting because it was like regular fucking, tea bag. English tea,
like
and
dust in a paper bag.
Yeah, exactly. Like lead shit. It was terrible. So I was like, I'm not missing anything here. I don't want more of this, So I didn't. And then I mean, I have, there's the rest of it is like it is a series of points on a timeline where effectively I was exposed to better tea. I had a girlfriend who didn't drink. She was like prosumer kind of, like she drank the good stuff from Whole Foods. Like she would get like better regular people tea. And that was like the first time I would have like regular, it was still regular people. It was still trash, but it was like less disgusting than like, whatever.
It was organic trash.
Yeah, it was not so disgusting. And then I was like, okay, that's cool. Then she went to China. She got some legit stuff. It wasn't that legit. It was more herbal, but like it broadened the spectrum that there's another thing out there. Then I lived next to this Korean tea house in New York. And I remember, it was like a vegan restaurant and tea house.
What was it called?
Francia. I don't know why it's called Francia, but so the other place is called Hangawi. So they have two places. One is a vegan, like it's beautiful. It's in K-Town, called Hangawi, and it's really cool. And they have good tea there. And then a few blocks away on 35th and Park is Francia. I don't know why it's called Francia because it's a Korean place and the name but they have really good tea there. And so I would go there just like for lunch, and then I would see on the menu that they had like a separate tea menu, and there's a page, first picking, second picking, third picking. And that, I was like, what does that mean? Oh, tea leaves are a thing. Oh, there's a quality level to them. Oh, there's a season for them. There's a freshness level. There's certain parts of the plant that, this just opened my eyes to another thing. Like, oh, there's just getting into the granular aspects of it. And that was like, I didn't do a deep dive. It wasn't instant. It took a couple more years, but like once I understood some of the spectrum, it was just like I was excited about. I moved to Los Angeles a couple of years after that, and when I would meet tea people, I would get excited and I would communicate with them, and then it was basically meeting other tea people who
And there's a
taught
lot of them
me.
in LA.
Yeah, so there's no tea houses in LA. New York has great tea houses, but LA has no. There's private stuff, but there's no like walk in and get
Right.
tea at a good tea. That doesn't exist in Los Angeles, strangely.
Huh.
But there's a community, and they do tastings, and they do there's cool stuff. There's some Japanese temples and stuff like that. And then there's just like people who organize at their houses and they import stuff. And it's really cool once you get super into it. And I just, I happened upon some of those people. And then I went to Little Tokyo, I went to the tea festival and stuff. And like, it was just one thing after another
Cool.
of learning. And then I stacked, then I took it upon myself. I started hosting at my house. Like Saturday, cool. Sunday morning, I would just like my friend Jason, my friend Gian, people that were really into tea that were way more knowledgeable than me. I would just like, yo, do you want to like come
give them a venue,
hang out sometime? Yeah. And just like invite whoever you want. And we would get tea drunk and then like go for lunch nearby. But like we'd get tea drunk from like 9 a.m. to like 3 p.m. And everyone would just bring stuff. And it would just be like a table full of just like incredible tea, and it was just like shot for shot, and then we'd all be wasted, because we wouldn't eat, and then we'd all go for lunch after. But yeah, it was like those kinds of sessions where so I didn't get into it with any kind of like, there was no practice, there was no like no platform, no infrastructure, there was no connection to it. Like it wasn't like I like meditation so I like tea. It was just like, this is a good drink. I think also there might be like something behind this. Read the Kakuzo Okakura, like the basic shit, now since then I've really like, I know my shit now. But there was a time where it was just like I had the 101 and I lived a really nice tea life with a 101 understanding, and like you get that 101 understanding, and like holy, it is night and day. Just that 101. You read the 36-page Kakuzo Okakura book, and like if you have that level of understanding, it changes everything for you. Now I'm in a whole nother sector of it, but
I think it's
now
like
I can tell
levels.
You what farms and stuff. Yeah, I could tell you like what type of tea you drink at what time of year, and if you get it from this guy versus that guy. Like now I could do all that. But like once I got that very, like those sessions with Gian and Jason and people like that, once I had that level of understanding that I knew the difference between Baozhong and Dongding and Oriental Beauty and stuff like that, once I got there, it was like, it became such that, yeah, you know what? Okay, this is a funny way to think about it. Film and music are like my biggest passions for my whole life. And I'd say like clothing right beneath that, and tea just like catapulted up into that. And all of a sudden like film, music, and tea are like I hear things, I see things, and I taste things. And like it just became my world. And I think about everything in terms of tea. I think about everything in terms of tea and DJing. I think that my understanding of DJing and my understanding of tea are like the cornerstone. Those are
DJing, because I feel like completely intimidated by DJing, because like when I was a kid, it's actually strange. When I was like, I have a cousin who was like my age, he's actually like a couple hours older than me. And he grew up in like the heart of Little Havana, and somehow God only knows who the fuck he was messing with, but when we were like 9 and 10 years old, somehow he ended up with 2 turntables and a mixer and some speakers and a bunch of vinyl. And dude, every time that I would go to his house, he would just be mixing and mixing and mixing and mixing and mixing. And he had like it was written on vinyl,
Oh yeah.
He had like all this old.
That was a great record to learn on. I would back in the day. I don't know. I'm 35, but it was written those.
I'm 34.
So it's the same era, yeah. But I would juggle those beats. Like that was one of the records that I would learn with. Just going, just cutting up one, mixing back, cutting up, just looping. That's like how you learn turntablism. You just loop, and It Was Written was a great record to do that with. Just taking those. First 16s,
we used to jam on It Was Written and Machiavelli, and
Yeah.
like and so like but to this day, dude, like I have a little speaker at home. I mean, a
Uh-huh.
little turntable at home, and like it's got a built-in preamp and it goes directly into computer speakers. And every time that and it's like, okay, it works, but I'm like, I know that I'm like, like I'm like intimidated by, like, it's so expensive, the equipment, the speakers, and then I
But
don't know like
yo,
what the
none of that
mixer.
matters anymore though. Like you're either there's not going to be like all the turntablism part, like that thing is over. Like there's it's still wonderful, but you don't need to you don't need any of that. Like you could go DJ with just as much technical prowess, like with 15 minutes of literally like you could go the gear that exists today, you could spend 15 minutes learning how to use it and go out and play. There's stuff that I can do blending records and artistically, but technically it's very
Mhm.
little. Like I mean I'm rusty as fuck right now, like I haven't played in a while, but like I wouldn't be technically, it's not like you need to back in the day. Oh my god, like what you're
It's
describing,
crazy. Think of
chopping up
like
records and looping is so hard. I've never been a
how
good
yeah,
turntablist, but
I don't know how the
DJing
hell
live dance music is a whole different thing. And
my
today
favorite
you
shit.
don't need the turntablism.
But what I listen to a lot of, like, I just can't get enough of it, is Madlib and Jay Dilla.
Cool.
Like I listen to Madlib and Jay Dilla and MF Doom's beats too.
Yeah.
Like I just like if I just had those three producers on loop for the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly happy. But dude, when I think about them doing what they did at the time that they did with the equipment that they had, it's like it's madness, dude. It's crazy.
It's a weird thing to think about because the amount of technical skill, the development that it took for people like that to get there was insane. It was so difficult to do those things. To loop, period, was so hard.
Exactly.
And tape
Yeah.
to tape kind of shit is so hard. And now it's
Imagine.
like it's a button. Now it's you have your
Yeah.
USB turntable and it just literally like you could go lay that down, press record, play, stop. It's in there. Put it
That's it.
into whatever program you want to put it into, and like you're a producer. It's
Dude,
crazy.
to think of like Cool Herc, the very first person to do it, like God only knows, man.
Oh, doing it
It's
on before scratching was a thing, and doing it on like a regular mixer with
doing
just
it in
two independent, yeah,
1979. This
crazy.
before nobody had ever done it.
Yeah,
Like that's crazy.
it's crazy hard. I was never a good scratch DJ, but I had the best gear. Like I was doing it on, Technics and
Yeah.
Newmark TTXs and stuff. I had a Rain 56 was the mixer that I had at home, and it was the best scratch mixer ever, really. And I wasn't good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the people who had, the early gear, it's a whole nother. The amount of practice, the amount of 18 hours in a row they would practice. It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but my knowledge of DJing is more. I was never a good scratch DJ. I am like I play dance music and
Yeah.
like playing for people is more my skill. I'm not like one who like I'm big on like I don't want people to like look at me. I want them to be dancing and doing other
Enjoying
things.
each other. Yeah. I see.
Scratching is more of like a performance and it's like a call and response kind of thing. That's never been my skill set.
I see.
I love that kind of stuff. I actually learned from those types of DJs. Like I Emerge was like one of the first people to teach me, who won who won he won 2 years in a row. What is it? I'm like blanking. This like the scratching championships.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that was how I got exposed to it. Like those kinds of hip hop scratch DJs. But one of them was watching me play at one point, and he was like, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, that's not how to mix this kind of music. That's what you would do with this other kind of music." and he's like, try doing the same thing. And I was playing hip hop, I was playing hip hop with house music technique. And he told me, try using so like they were teaching me all these techniques and I was like ignoring them. I had these house music techniques ingrained in me from like my youth, from being exposed to it through like my family had like a disco label and a house music label.
Oh, wow.
And I just like, I'll never forget talking to this one DJ named Jonathan Peters, who told me like specifically like not to touch the vinyl at certain times. And I remember when I learned to do that, like with scratch DJs, I ignored it because I was just like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Like, I know better. And so I didn't do a lot of the stuff that hip hop DJs do. And I would play hip hop records where I would like loop the front 8 beats and they'd be like, and I would like get off on looping these, you know, the end and the beginning of these things, like before Serato had these things where you just like auto it. And he's like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, oh, I'm just like, you know, I like blending. I like these like transitions and stuff and making it and stretching them out and like hearing, you know, the highs of one and the lows of the other, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, like in hip hop, just like drop it on the one. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And he's like, try doing this on, and he gave me, I think I had some DFA records in there and I just like did the same thing on these DFA records. And it was like, oh, that's what I should have been doing this whole time. I was like, it was like, okay, that's the rest of my life. And wow. Yeah, basically like that was the rest of my life. Cause everything that I was doing was applicable to a whole nother just style, but it was like not my socially, when I would go out to places like, you know, today, like D Nice is having his moment. Like I used to hear D Nice spin all the time, people like that. So I would play the kind of sounds like them, but technically I DJ'd completely differently. And then I segued to like proper dance music. And then it was like, oh, this is what I do. This is crazy that I was doing something else before. Anyway, but my DJing is very like the technicality of it is not intimidating at all. People learn it very fast, the kind of stuff that I do, but the kind of stuff that you were talking about with scratching and stuff takes years. And I'm not good at it.
Yeah. I like my outside of T, my real like my hobbies, I'd say, like, you know, like I've been doing martial arts for a really long time.
Yeah.
I started doing karate when I was 6. I started boxing when I was like 3. And then I played football, and then I started karate, and then I stopped karate when I started playing football in like middle school. And then like in college when I like started tripping out on LSD, I like stopped all combat sports and really like dove deep into yoga. You know, and like was just deep in the yoga and meditation game until I was like 24. And that was when I ran into my karate teacher from when I was a kid, just randomly. And I started talking to him about yoga and about Qigong. And, you know, we started talking about Qigong and about like the kind of like the lineage of like Qigong becoming Tai Chi, becoming martial arts, becoming Kung Fu, and becoming Okinawan karate, and Okinawan karate
and
mixing
then that's
with that.
What led you to T eventually.
Well,
right?
That,
or no?
No,
or was
no,
that simultaneous?
It was simultaneous. It was happening while I was at the Buddhist temple. So then, like, you know, it was like right around the time that I was already starting Dojo T.
Okay.
And then, you know, so then I ran into my teacher and just decided that it would be a cool opportunity to practice. And my teacher is he's a psychologist. He's been a psychologist in Miami-Dade public school system for like 35 years. So it's really, dude, like, I can't tell you how much I love like those classes, because like there's a group of people, you know, ranging, like he has a kids class and an adults class, but the adults class really is like 14 years old and up, you know? So there's a lot of kids in there, you know?
Sure.
Or there's some kids in there. But like, whether it's the kids or the adults, or, you know, like it's, I find it so fascinating the way that we all have our insecurities, you know? And like, he has this amazing ability to like fish out your insecurity, you know? And in the middle of you doing some like difficult pose where you're like trying to remember the next thing that comes, and then you're like in the middle of doing it, he'll be like, oh, you fucked up there. I think you smoked a little too much weed this weekend, huh?
Funny.
And you're like in the middle of the thing, and he like
Yeah.
hits you on something that you're insecure about, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like you have to keep going, and you have to, like, you know, if he knocks you off of your game, then
Well, it's about
he
balance. Yeah.
he won, and he like
Because you have to
and
find
he
balance in the rest of your life with that insecurity as well.
exactly. And if somebody who is like who has dedicated their whole life to finding the insecurity and then hitting you when you're vulnerable, if you can like stand up to that person, then it's like, who the fuck can knock you off of your game? You know what I mean?
Does he drink tea?
Yeah.
Do you
But
integrate like tea into those classes with the kids and stuff, or no?
no. With the most that we'll do is like, you know, when we have black belt classes that, you know, that only the black belts go, then I'll usually like I'll bring a kettle and some tea, and then after class we'll sit down and have tea and just talk, you know.
So what's like Miami? So you've been at it for 10 years. What's Miami tea culture like? Or is it
Man, you
just
know,
your
it's
spot? Because you do accounts also, you know, you do restaurants, you do lots of different
yeah.
kinds of things.
I mean, like, there's like there, you know, like, I feel like there's no way to answer that question without sounding like an arrogant asshole. So I know that I'm an asshole, but we've like, outside of us, there's not a lot, man. It's like, you know, there's a little tea company called Small Tea. That's like a little tea room, you know. But you know, and they offer like 40 teas, and and the
I mean,
owner's a
most
sweetheart. He's
city,
a
this
great guy.
isn't crazy thing. It's arrogant. Like most places
Yeah,
in America have at best one semi-legit tea place. Like if
yeah,
you
yeah.
in America, most have nothing. And at best, there might be like a shop that has like okay stuff, but like usually it's one of those things where you get like the giant tins lined up on a wall and
Yeah, like
they
a
order in
spice
bulk
and
and
tea
it's just,
exchange,
uh-huh.
a spice and tea exchange where you can get a barbecue blend, and then next to it you can get an Earl Grey tea, and then next to it you can get a, you know what I mean? It's like Italian seasoning. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of shit. You know.
Sure.
But
So have
you
you,
know,
so, okay. So
but
like, yeah,
I
sorry,
want
go
to
ahead.
say, because of the fact that we work with so many, and we have worked with so many restaurants over the past
Right.
decade. What I do is, like, whenever we do a staff training, whenever we have a new account, I'll do a staff training for the account, and I'll go and I'll teach the people that whoever's working with the tea. Okay, look, let's talk about tea. What is tea?
Yeah.
Okay, what is Camellia sinensis? What is white tea? What is green tea? What is oolong tea? What is black tea? And I just give them enough of a fundamental understanding to just whet their appetite a little bit. You know what I mean? Just enough that they are like, holy shit, tea is pretty fucking in depth. You know what I mean? And then I just arm them with enough knowledge to make sure that they're not going to burn any green tea, and that they're getting a full extraction out of everything else. Okay,
Right.
solid, you're good. And then doing that over the past 10 years,
I mean, that's like that
developed
101 that I was talking about. Like literally just getting that is so valuable and totally changes someone's tea life. Like if you just
exactly.
literally just only just instead of the Whole Foods tea bag that they get or whatever, the you know, the garbage dust, instead of that, if you just make them leaves in a cup with the right
Exactly.
temperature water, you know, for no one's going to leave it in there for that long anyway. So it's like not really going to fuck that up. And like, that's it. That totally changes it.
But that's the trap for us too, you know, because like for me, for like that, like it took me at least like 8 years to understand that less is more. And to understand that, like, the more I spell out those discoveries for my guests, the less it's going to mean to them.
I
and
joke like a tagline for me is like, I like my house music slow and my tea steeps fast. Like,
yeah. You know, it's like if the more I say, the less they're going to learn about tea at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you know that story, you've heard of Sen no Rikyu?
Yes, but tell the story.
So there's this one of the many stories about Sen no Rikyu, and it's a story that, like, dude, I tell this story, like, this story is everything to me. When it comes to like the practice of tea, because we're saying, like, look, like in those like staff trainings, if I can keep it really simple, look, this is green tea, this is black tea. Make sure you don't pour boiling water over green tea because you'll over extract tannins. This is how they're made. Boom. Then they get excited about it. If I get excited and I start talking and talking and talking and talking and talking over, then the thing you got to, you know, that depends. Is it a Wu Yi Oolong, a Phoenix Oolong, an Anshi Oolong, or a Taiwan Oolong? And then we're in Taiwan. They're like, what the fuck?
It's way over their head. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, if you just give them the oxidation scales and like a little bit about what it's gonna taste like, that's it. And
exactly. And so there's a story about Sen no Rikyu that, like, he, you know, he's like the Japanese Lu Yu. You know, he's like the tea saint of Japan. He's considered the father of Japanese tea ceremony. And there was one student that wanted to come study tea ceremony with Sen no Rikyu. And he had studied tea for a long time before already, you know, and he was doing tea ceremonies, but everybody was talking about this guy, Sen no Rikyu, who was an amazing teacher. And he felt like, all right, I got to go study from Sen no Rikyu, you know? So he asked Sen no Rikyu if he can study with him. Sen no Rikyu says yes. And the student spends 4 years studying with Sen no Rikyu. So at the end of the 4th year, he says, Master, I've been studying with you for 4 years. I feel like I've learned so much about tea. And Sen no Rikyu's like, yeah, you've learned a lot about tea. And then the student says, but I feel like there's one fundamental secret to tea that I just don't understand yet. And Sen no Rikyu goes, yes, that's true. There is one big fundamental secret to tea that you don't understand yet. So, okay, what is it? Here's the secret to tea. Heat water, make tea, drink it. The guy says, well, fuck you. I knew that before I came here, you know? I didn't need you to tell me that. Heat the water, make the tea, drink it. Yeah, no shit. What the fuck else are you going to do with it, you know? And then, you know, he blows up. And Sen no Rikyu says, the day that you can just heat water and make tea and drink it and not do anything else, from that day until my dying day, I shall call you master. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's like the lessons, all of the lessons are in the water and the leaves. And in that's it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that, like, what tea is and means can only be experienced. And, like, it's like meditation, man. I enjoy talking about meditation way too much. And I get all excited about, like, the impermanence of mental phenomena. But if somebody doesn't have a direct experience of that, it's like talking Chinese doesn't mean shit. It's not going to connect. You know what I mean? And it's the same exact thing with tea. For this
show, you know, that's why that's like, I want to sort of mainstream tea as much as I can. Like, I'm going to, you know, I have episodes that are deep dives into music stuff, film stuff, whatever, you know, things that are more out there already. But I think about this as, like, to the regular person, here's like the information that can elevate this part of your life if you're interested, right. You know, and draw them in a little bit. And so anyone can do it.
Such a depth, show that such a depth even exists, you know? It's like, dude, there's this guy in I think he lives in Nevada City, California. This guy, he asked to be my friend on Facebook, and just because of the tea scene this year, last
year,
I
won Tea Masters Cup thing.
Yeah, when I won
the World Tea Expo.
Yeah.
So I had that on my list of, like, topics. The World Tea Expo is in Las Vegas once a year in June, right?
Yeah.
Typically, it's supposed to be, you know, coming up, and they have a Tea Masters Cup. I think you know, Tony Jebley. Did he organize it, or is he just part
Tony
of it?
Tony Gabley, yeah.
Jebley or Jebley? Like, I said
Gabley.
Gabley. Okay.
Yeah, he's Tony and the American Specialty Tea Alliance were the ones that kind of like
and Mike won
put it together. Yeah, I won the
for his
American for tea preparation. It was for like a Gong Fu tea presentation. Yeah. It was for Gong Fu tea, like preparation and presentation of a tea. You know.
will you explain, because we've kind of grazed over it, but like explain what that is, what Gong Fu tea preparation is to a layman.
Yeah. So like so first off, like I think okay, what I'll do is first I'll discuss what Gong Fu tea preparation is, and then I'll discuss like the rubric on which we were judged in the competition.
Yeah, tell us about the whole thing, the competition and everything.
Where so like the way that I like to describe it, that I think
Shift
makes
out of
the
the
most
sun.
sense, where the way that I like to describe it, that I think makes the most sense, that people can understand easily, is that like so the Western style of tea making that we're used to involves taking a little bit of tea and putting it in a lot of water for about 5 minutes, right? And then we take the tea out and we drink the water. Now, Gong Fu tea is more like you use a lot of tea and a little bit of water. But instead of steeping it for 5 minutes, you steep it for like 5 breaths. So by upping the concentration of tea and reducing the concentration of water, you reduce the steep time. And then as a result of reducing the steep time, you can steep the same leaves many times, you know?
And are you using a Gaiwan, an I Ching, or what?
Yes. You know, like
Whatever,
I use,
mixing it up.
whatever I have access to. And I think it's fun to even like work with what you've got and figure out a way to make it work, you know?
They're just vessels that you put stuff in. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, if I'm at home or in my tea room, you know, yeah, then I'll use, you know, like this is a pot from Lynn Ceramics. That's like a nice glazed clay pot. And then I've also got like some really great I Ching stuff. I've got some nice porcelain Gaiwans. That I like using Gaiwans, particularly for Phoenix Mountain oolongs. That's what I like to use them the most for. I think that like just the Phoenix Mountain oolongs, I like to compare them to like a 16-year-old girl in a bright red convertible. It's like she's just discovering that she's sexy and she's dying for everybody to discover her. You know what I mean? It's like Phoenix Mountain oolongs are just like yelling, like, I'm pretty, I'm pretty, I'm pretty. It's like, okay, fine. You know? But the Gaiwan, just like, I think that the Gaiwan, because there's so much surface area, there's room for like such a thorough extraction of aromatics. And it's such an aromatic tea that it's like, it's perfect, you know? So I like to use like, if I can have my pick, you know, I'll use like a I Ching clay basically for, you know, for like just about any oolong, any shengpu, any shoupu, any hongcha, any like red tea, you know. And then I like to use Gaiwan for white tea, and I like to use Gaiwan for Phoenix Mountain oolongs. And then I like to use glass for green tea and yellow tea too. Okay. And then, but again, like I think it's like something that I always like to do is like if I know I'm gonna go on vacation, I'll just take a little bag of tea. Like I'll just take this, you know. Sure. And then I'll get there and okay, I've got a K-cup water heater, I've got paper cups. Okay, I'll make it work, and I'll try and see how delicious I can make it. Even if the water has a natural coffee taste, how can I fuck with that? How can I make it as delicious as I can? You know, I think that's
I bring
like
stuff with me. I bring a few different things. I bring a bunch of tea, but I also bring some, like a little, like a little
Gong Fu travel set.
Basically,
yeah, I mean, I do that too sometimes. You know, it's like but I think that it's like
you
to
don't
me
have
it's really
to.
refreshing. Yeah, I think it's refreshing that it's like it's leaves and water, and like the more we can.
You could also just do it Chinese style, grandpa style, and just put leaves in a cup and drink it, and then add more water, drink it, and you're gonna get something. A lot of there you go, yeah.
Nice bowl.
Right,
you know?
Just put it in a bowl and just leaves at the bottom and drink it as you go, and you could adjust the temperature. Don't go down in temperature, really. Go up in temperature, but it's a cool way to. Part of what I always love to do with tea is just like explore the whole spectrum of it, and that's grandpa style is a way that you can get all of it.
Yeah, and that Glenlivet blend that you're drinking, like first. No, I'm saying that like for the first maybe like 3 or 4 years of JoJo tea, like the idea of like making a tea cocktail was like sacrilege. It's like, what are you talking about? You know, dude, let me tell you something, man. Like Dude, I have so much fun creating cocktails now, you know. The last cocktail that I made was a clarified milk punch. You know what that is?
No, tell me.
So you know how, like, if you know what happens if you pour lemon juice into milk?
No.
So if you take a glass of milk and you pour lemon juice into it, the fat from the milk curdles and
Oh.
it separates from the water in the milk, right? So there's this cocktail technique called milk wash, or a clarified milk punch, that was developed in the 1700s by an actress, and it extended the shelf life of rum punches, right? So if I take like the one that I made is pineapple juice, sugar, lemon juice, orange peels, and lemon peels. I let that sit, right? I pour into that rum, cognac, and sweet, and a little bit of dry vermouth. And
Cool.
now I mix all that up, and that's like super acidic. I mean, it's pineapple juice, lemon juice, rum, and vermouth, you know, and brandy. But then I'll like simmer chai tea in milk for like a half hour, you know. Then strain all of the milk, all of the tea out, and I'll pour the milk into the cocktail. Then because the cocktail is so acidic, it causes the milk fat catches all of the solids and kind of like coagulates around them. And that extracts all of the harsh and bitter flavors out of the cocktail.
We have to put this into the notes so that we can tell people how to do this.
Dude, and then you pour that through like coffee filters, and you extract all of the like solids, and you just get this clear, you get like a clear liquid that is like not, it's like thicker than water, but like thinner than oil. And it has like a super luxurious, silky, like creamy, delicious mouthfeel.
Cool.
It's ridiculous. Like, and it's like, and then you think about like the retro nasal flavors of teas, you know, like after the flavors that happen after you swallow, you know. So when you make a cocktail, the spirit, whether it's a whiskey or a rum or a vodka, is going to carry those fumes, you know. And dude, it creates these opportunities to create these flavors that are like confusing and delicious.
I have to connect you with Lucinda.
No, it'd be an honor, you know. We made a green jasmine tea margarita with white grapes and cilantro.
Cool.
You know, and it's amazing with lime and green jasmine tea, you know, and it's just like that's one element of tea.
So are bartenders making those and serving those?
Yeah, and we'll even collaborate on customized blends for them, you know.
It's really
and then
cool.
You know,
what are some places in Miami or elsewhere that are doing it?
So Kaido is have you ever heard of Mace in New York, over there in the West Village?
Oh yeah.
So their cocktail director has a spot down here in Miami. Their owner, cool. Actually.
I went there just last year, and it was really, really great. Yeah.
I love them. They're on their own planet. Cool. Sorry, I had an incoming call. So I work with Nico at Kaido, the Matador Room in the Edition Hotel. Their beverage director is Kip Byrne. He's got a couple clarified milk punches that are using our tea on the menu.
Awesome.
Usually the guys at the Broken Shaker and 27 will have some sort of expression of our tea on the menu. Yeah. There's a lot of places, you know. Spanglish is a new bar that just opened down in Wynwood. Spanglish and Grails. They've got our iced teas, and they've got some like tea collaborative cocktails on there. Who else?
I got to come check them out. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Wynwood when I was down there during Art Basel for like a week or two.
This past year?
Yeah, just a few months ago. Yeah.
Nice.
So we were in Wynwood a bunch.
Did you ever go to Wynwood back around like 2011, 2012?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've been spending time in Miami my whole life.
Okay, word.
I knew what Wynwood was like before it was. I think I played at Bardot, you know, a while ago.
That was the best, man. Those days were magical, man. Those days were really so fun. Yeah. Those days were so special, dude. Like those days were. I remember, like I would relish driving into Wynwood to make a delivery. because
Oh
I
yeah.
knew that if I was going into Wynwood to make a delivery at 2 p.m., I didn't know what the rest of the day was going to like. You know, it was like, all right, I'm going to budget the rest of the afternoon because I'm going to Wynwood,
Right.
and you know, you don't know what the fuck is coming. You know?
It's different now. What do you
No,
think
yeah.
of that other development? What Magic City, right?
Well, I mean, you know, I think that I don't know what to think because I've been hearing about it for so many years, but it doesn't really, you know, I know that the money behind it is serious. You
Hmm.
know, I know that they're
It's the
putting real
same Wynwood.
serious.
It's the same real estate guys, isn't it? The three guys
Uh,
from the Wynwood development or something. I don't know.
yeah, but there's big, but like the guys that are actually putting up the Magic City project is the team behind Cirque du Soleil.
Right, right. Oh yeah, I met him. I was at the opening, the base camp opening.
Yeah.
So I did a stage at Coachella with a guy named David
Oh wow.
Corso, who he produced, like he produced the base camp thing, and so I was
Yeah.
with them for the opening during Art Basel, and I met the Cirque du Soleil guy.
Sure. So
Right.
yeah. So they're putting like, you know, from what I understand, they're putting like a couple $1 billion into the neighborhood.
You should have a little outpost at base camp.
Well, I'm looking at moving into the neighborhood,
Oh,
but
cool.
yeah, I'm looking at moving into the neighborhood because we got to move out of here pretty soon. So
Oh, okay.
uh, yeah, so we're exploring options now.
I'm gonna spend more time in Miami in the future. My family got a place in like Northern Collins, or I don't know what Northern Collins is, but it's like 100 something street. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
where I've never really hung out. I'm always more south, but I think I've
It's a
like,
chill area.
yeah,
A
okay.
buddy of
It's
mine
on the
lived up
beach though.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, a buddy of mine lived up there on like 95th and Collins,
right.
and I used to love going to his house, bro. Like
Oh, that's
because it was
cool.
so far removed from everything. He had an apartment also right like that on the water, and it was like you just go and, you know, chill, and you didn't have to worry about a damn thing in the world because you're so far removed from like the South Beach and the
Right.
Design
That's
District and
nice.
all the. Yeah, man, it's really
To
nice.
me, like, up until recently of realizing it was always like the Fountain Blue, and then it's just North Miami Beach. It's like NMB. Like, oh wait, did I lose you? Hello? Did it cut off?
All right.
Okay, we had technical, but we're back. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we could talk about Miami shit like
We
forever.
fell into a deep.
Um,
We fell into a deep Miami rabbit hole. That's a good rabbit hole.
okay, things I want to get on this before we wrap, and we could always like do another time. But I want to talk about like Nepal, your trips and stuff like that, like where in the world you've gone
Hmm.
for tea. And I guess to end to relevantize everything is just like how has the world been affected by pandemic, and how has tea
Sure,
been
sure, sure.
affected, and your business and partners elsewhere, supply, all of it. So
Hmm.
yeah, so just like first, I guess, what have been some really exciting places that have moved you where you've gone on
Sure.
tea trips, and then how's it all today?
I think that like so I used to have a business partner in JoJo Tea, and him and I have historically split up the traveling, you know. So historically, I've gone to whenever we need to go to China or Taiwan, I go. And whenever we needed to go to India, Nepal, or Japan, he would go.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Yeah.
That's cool
So
because you develop your relationships and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you know, for the next trips, I'll be doing India and Nepal as well. But in the past, I've only done China and Taiwan. Um, you know, it's like
Well, yeah, tell us areas and stuff like that.
oh, sure, sure. So like the first year in Taiwan, I started off in Taipei. You know, just kind of visiting like historic tea houses in Taipei. From there, I went down to Alishan and had like sat in on a session of making milk oolong. You know, Jin Chuan.
Alishanti, yeah, I was gonna say is like sweet. It's really like there's like a creaminess to it, and yeah, the milk oolongs are like real. They're like obnoxious almost.
Yeah, like
It's great.
they're so creamy. They have something to prove. It's like
Yeah, like if you
yeah,
leave an Alishan in for too long, it's just like it's obnoxious. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
but it can
yeah.
be perfect. It can be so delicious.
So I spent some time on Alishan. Then from there, I went to Sun Moon Lake. and saw some
Sun
Ruby
Moon Lake is
18.
like legendary. Like talk about talk about Sun Moon Lake.
Yeah. So it's like a mountain in the middle of a lake in the middle of the mountains in central Taiwan. It's famous for making this red tea called Ruby 18. It's a well, you know what they call in China red tea, what we call black tea, the same category, but it's not heavily roasted. It's like roasted at a much lighter temperature, so you get the same kind of tanginess and flavor profile of black tea, but you get the mouth feel closer to like peppermint, that kind of like cooling sensation. And so I spent some good time in Sun Moon Lake, and made a good friend in Sun Moon Lake, Alfredo Lin. He makes a really great Ruby 18 and Ruby White. He works with JoJo Tea. He also works with Tealet and works with Spirit Tea out of Chicago. And along with many other American retailers, he's a great tea master. You know. Then from there, I visited like some like bigger commercial production facilities of Oriental Beauty. Then I visited another one of our producers back in Alishan, who makes like a Jade Mountain and Everspring. The I family. They're dude. This is an amazing story. This lady,
Okay.
she moved to Taiwan with her family when she was 7 years old during the Cultural Revolution, and she went straight into making tea with her family, and she developed and became a very good tea master. You know, and by the time that she was in her early 40s, it was time for her to take over the family business. So she decided that she wanted to go see if she can make tea in high mountains. But when she went into the high mountains, the gardeners there had never heard of a lady making tea before. So they were like, "No, you can't make tea here. What are you, crazy?" And she's like, "Well, listen, let me make a test batch. You know, let me make a sample batch, and if you think it's
It
good
was
enough,
like your trial under fire. Yeah.
yeah, exactly." She goes, "Yeah, but but the tea gardeners didn't know that they were the ones being tested, not her." She goes to them. She's like, "All right, let me make a test batch,
Yeah.
and then I'll bring it back to you. And then based on how good you think the tea is and whether or not you think it sells, you can give me a price on what it would cost to like rent your tea garden." And she made that agreement with 20 different gardeners without telling them. So then once they all tasted her tea and they're like, "Oh shit, damn, your tea is really good." She's like, "Okay, then meet me here on this day and we'll discuss the pricing." And what she did on
She
that
put
day
them all
was
up against each other.
she put them all in the same room, and she was like, literally, she put them all in the same room, and she was like, "All right, who's gonna give me the best price?"
Wow.
And she had all these old dudes fighting each other.
Oh my God.
So I spent a few days with her, seeing her production, getting to know her family, getting to know the way that they do business, and then there was like a miraculous thing that happened that I think is like for the rest of my life will be a highlight, and is still like such a dear connection. My friend Alfredo Lin, you know, we were talking about tea, and he's like, "Man, you know, you really love tea." And yeah, I really love Oriental Beauty. And we started talking about Oriental Beauty. I tell him about how it got me into tea. And he goes, "You know, I have a friend that makes Oriental Beauty, and I think she's probably going to make some soon, you know." I go, "Oh, wow, cool." Like, you know, I had booked the next 3 days in this beach town in South Taiwan just to go chill on the beach for the last 3 days of the trip, you know. And I go to meet this lady, and this lady is like, "Yeah, you make Oriental Beauty." First, like I met a friend of hers, and he's like, "Oh, you like Oriental Beauty? Here, I have some that I just made. I made this one on April 13th of this year. April 13th is my birthday."
Oh,
So I was like, "Okay, interesting, you
it's
know."
meant to
And
be.
and then I go to meet Rebecca, and this lady, she's like, "Yeah, I'm about to make Oriental Beauty. If you want, you can stay, and we'll make a whole batch of Oriental Beauty together." So I canceled all the rest of my plans for the trip, and I stayed with her making Oriental Beauty from pluck to cup, you know.
That's your Oriental Beauty is like, is that your favorite?
I mean, you know, it's like
It doesn't
it's
really
like,
matter what a favorite is, I guess.
yeah, it's like but it's weird, man, because it's like, you know, we talk about how like I don't understand tea, you don't understand tea, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Oriental Beauty is a tea to me that's like it's like a romantic thing. It's like my first kiss, you know. It's like, is my first kiss my favorite kiss of all time? No. But is there a certain inexplicable magic about my first kiss that blows every other kiss out of the water? Yes. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
yeah, that's how I feel about
and having
Oriental
that
beauty.
connection there. Super
So
cool.
so so being able to spend 3 days with her making tea,
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
drinking tea until 2 a.m. in the middle of the
Yeah.
mountains, middle of like
Wow.
Hsinchu, Beipu, Taiwan, nowhere. You know what I mean? That was really
It's really,
special.
I mean, sitting here and wherever I am, like, there's nothing like going into the fields and like going up on a mountain and like just putting a mat down and just like having a thermos with some water and making tea amongst it. I've done that a couple times, and it's, I mean,
So that was magic. Yeah, yeah.
incredible.
And then
So
in
how's, yeah.
2017, I was really fortunate to like, I visited in 2017. I toured all over Yunnan, like all over Sichuan,
Oh,
Bana.
cool.
I went to Yola. Let's see.
Yunnan
I went
is
through
central China and is really considered like the birthplace. It's the earliest tea, and it's where all
yeah,
pu'er comes from too.
kind of between like Tibet and Thailand. If you draw a line from Tibet to Thailand, you would cross through the Yunnan province.
Yeah.
And the, I mean, like I saw the oldest tea tree in the world. It's at least 3,000-year-old tea tree, the size of the
Wow.
building that we're in right now.
Wow.
I tasted I was invited by some billionaire to taste, because I was in a tea garden in Jingmai that was planted 800 years ago and then abandoned 700 years ago. So today it's a forest of 800-year-old tea trees.
Wow.
And I was in there and I met this guy, when we struck up a conversation, and he started kind of testing me about tea. And when I started telling him that I like Xishuang Bana raw pu'er from Yola and Yiwu, he was like, "Yeah, you know what? Please join me." And dude, this guy had just paid up for 250 grams of supposedly 1888 Imperial Tribute raw pu'er. He had just bought it at auction for about $420,000 for 250 grams.
So this is like a whole, this could be multiple episodes. This could be like a whole series to talk about just Chinese pu'er speculation.
Yeah.
There's a whole, there's mafia stuff, there's conspiracies, there's art to it because they make these sculptures out of it. There's a whole nother thing. It's for another, it's like not even worth going down to that rabbit.
Yeah.
Like because tea, like art, is worth what you say it's worth. Exactly. Someone says it's worth this much. As long as someone will pay it, it's worth that much. And that's right. Kind of, so with pu'er, it got popular, and then like things, whatever. It's all it
is. But the opportunity to taste an 1888 pu'er is something that I'll never forget. The opportunity to visit the tribes in the Bulang Mountain and visit temples made out to tea. Temples, because the Bulang tribe views tea as God. Views like it's not like humanity cultivated the tea leaf. It's like the tea leaf cultivated humanity and taught us how to exist in harmony with nature. And continues to try to teach us.
To note that that people pay $500,000 for, just like or like I had a $60,000 whiskey taste once, like stuff like that. That exists, and I think that a lot of people just like, they don't know that tea, like they think tea, like a $10 tea is that's it.
But, and then from there I was able to go into Sichuan, and I visited Mengding Mountain, which is where most of the Tibetan tea comes from. Like it's like dark fermented tea. I visited Mengding Mountain. They've been making tea over 1,000 years. And we went and made a batch of tea there. From there, I actually had to go to the Netherlands to do some work with Norwegian Cruise Lines to train some of their staff.
Oh, cool.
And then I jumped back to, I was able to get to Wuyishan and visit Wuyishan for a while. Amazing. And it was just like a few days walking around Wuyishan, drinking raw oolongs, getting to know a producer out there.
Oolongs for China, it's sort of like what I was saying about Dongding in Taiwan. It's these roasts, but all giant spectrum of them, and that's kind of like the go-to. That's it's like there's a million of them, and it's really, really good. And it's on the Mountain, eastern coast of China.
Wuyi Mountain is like where the whole idea of rolling and bruising and allowing leaves to oxidize and then roasting them, that's where it all started. So like I feel like drinking Wuyi Mountain charcoal roasted oolongs is like a glimpse into the past of like, you know, if you went to China in the 1500s and you stumbled into Wuyi Mountain, you know, people would be really excited about this new oxidized shit. You know what I mean?
So what do you know? You have contacts in all these places. How is manufacturing, distribution, everything? How has it been affected by,
Dude,
you know, pandemic right now?
they're like they're all fine, man. You know what I mean? Because like the Chinese
isolated,
government,
like
they've been isolated for a really long time, and tea production didn't start until March. You know,
right.
and like they had the brunt of this thing in like December, January. You know what I mean?
So they had it together by then already. Yeah.
Yeah, like getting product from China now. I mean, like we had one shipment that we placed the order in January, and we just received the last box of the shipment this week. You know, because it was held up in customs for that long.
Yeah.
But that's because, you know, like the order went out in the middle of the shit. You know,
Right.
like I think right now we don't have any problem with getting product over here. Where the problem is that we sold tea to over 300 restaurants and coffee shops and hotels, and now they're all closed. Now it's just a website and like the few restaurants and coffee shops that are still open and selling tea to go in one way or another, you know?
Right.
So the challenge is more, and the obstacles really are more stateside than abroad right now. There have been some increases in shipping prices, which is a challenge, but you know, as long as the clients are closed, you can ship it for free. It doesn't matter, you know, we're not, we can't purchase.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, nothing to do with it. Okay.
It's worrisome. I think it's worrisome in the sense like the good news is that it's not a bad worry. It's worrisome in the sense that maybe the 2020 green tea season in the Western Hemisphere, a lot of those are going to be 2019 teas. You know what I mean? Just because so much of the teas that we bought in 2019 didn't have their expected sales. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now, you know, it's like we have so much inventory, and that tea is still really good. You know, if you're buying good green tea a year later, it's good.
It's,
you
yeah.
know, if you're buying
Yeah,
really
I
good
drink
green tea,
Shinsha, even Japanese, you know, Shinsha, which deteriorates really, really fast. I drink it
the
a year
fastest.
later. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's still
man,
something. It's not the same, but it's not. There's
Yeah.
nothing like drinking it right, like,
Of course.
you know, getting that
But
first Shinsha from Tanegashima. But you could still have it a year later. Like, it's still something.
I've got a bag of Maofeng from Huangshan Yellow Mountain from 2017, and I'll still mess with that tea, dude. It's a 2017 green tea. Like, it breaks all the rules, but it's delicious and it's great.
Yeah, especially
you know?
if you give it a roast or something like that.
Exactly,
There's a lot you can do with it. I love hand roasting teas and waking them up, you know?
Of course. Yeah. And then, for now, like, other than that, it's just like, you know, something that I think, like, if you're like, if your listeners are interested in Jojo tea, you know, our website is sipjojo.com, like to take a sip, sipjojo.com. Our Instagram handle is sipjojo. And, you know, if you're kind of like interested in getting into tea, but you don't know where to begin, something that we offer is called the Jojo Club. That it's like, I should say, if you're interested in getting into like real good, no bullshit, high level tea, but you don't know where to begin. Because like the Jojo Club, it's a seasonal box. It goes out 4 times per year.
I'm a member.
Yeah, that's right. It goes out 4 times per year, and those teas are like, those are the teas that I drink. You know what I mean? Those are the teas that I drink and that I'm most excited to drink, man. That Oriental Beauty. No, you haven't had it yet. Okay, that's right.
Not yet, yeah, because I didn't get I've been all over the place and I haven't gotten my shipments in forever.
Dude, the Oriental Beauty that went out in the April 1st box is like without a doubt one of the best teas that we've ever carried. It's amazing.
So it's sitting in the USPS on hold by my house in New York, probably.
Did we ship it to New York? I think we have.
I don't know. Oh, you didn't ship it yet? Oh, great. Then keep it. Hold it, and I'll get it when I go to somewhere. When I go somewhere that's like stable. Yeah, because it's not worth sending here. It's going to take forever.
Yeah,
okay, good. Oh, good. I'm glad it's not sitting in New York, because that would be just a waste. Yeah.
No, thanks.
I'll tell you when.
And thanks for the support, man. Like, you know, you've been a member of the Jojo Club for a while, and you know, it's like we're a small company, and like, yeah, like, you know, that I think that piece, that product is like, you know, it's what puts, like, it's what I put everything into, because that those are like jewels. Those teas are jewels, you know, and like, I'm really proud to be able to share those, you know.
Well, hopefully, you know, the point of this show is to get a lot of that out there and encourage people to try it out. So hopefully, you know, we can add some new members to it, and I'll certainly put all this info into the description, as well as we could actually collab on some notes to maybe
Word.
like draw up some tips and resources for people, and shout out some other places depending on where they are in the country, where they are in the world. Tell them where their local tea houses are. I mean, that's a lot of this is like spotlighting all of it, telling people how they can enhance their tea life.
Rock and roll, man. I love it.
Dude, well, thank you so much for connect me with everybody.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I Vegas in like 2 weeks, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, it's good to connect. It's good to go all the way in on all this stuff. It's really fun. I love talking tea, and we'll have to do it in person whenever the world opens. I don't know,
when the world allows.
I'll be spending more time in Miami because I want to be by the ocean more. I know that remote work is just going to be the reality for a long time. So if I'm trying to spend as little time possible not in the ocean. So
sure,
Miami's like one of the few places in the country that I'm willing to spend time. So yeah, so I definitely have some Miami time in my future. And
good, bro. I look forward to sipping together. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. All right, cool. Mike, it's a pleasure. And
you too, Sean.
Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. You too. It doesn't sound like you're having trouble staying safe.
Good. All right, brother.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Talk soon. Peace.
Peace, man.